Now, this time what we are going to do, now we are showing that systemic mycosis. Systemic mycosis means when the fungi, they infect the internal organs. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So here, just we will try to show some of the important disease conditions, which will be very much important from veterinary point of view. So let us start with the first disease, that is known as candidiasis. It is also termed as moniliasis or thrush or candidosis. So different names, same thing. So ultimately it is a systemic disease or infection caused by the yeast or the yeast-like fungi. Okay, you can remember back, that is the genus Candida. So genus Candida, mostly the important species, that is the Candida albicans, which is responsible for this disease. And this is not a very regular disease, it is a sporadic type of disease, and it appears in the alimentary tract. Alimentary tract means the digestive system involves for that. So what happens? This is very widespread and prevalent the entire world, but the organisms are mostly our normal flora. Last time I think I told that one of the fungus which is a normal flora, that is Candida albicans. So whenever our immune system or bacterial infection or even due to consumption of the antibiotics, our alimentary tract, the microbial balance, microbial flora, means bacteria, fungi, they are surviving simultaneously. When we consume, suppose, antibiotics, when suppose the pH of the digestive tract is different, means that infect or that affect the growth of the bacteria. When the bacteria growth is subsided, means diminished or lower down, at that time fungus can grow in a better way. One of them is like Candida albicans. So during that time, there are various factors which may upset the balance of the normal microbial flora, which causes various kind of disease. One of the disease, it is the candidiasis. You can find the name of the pathogens, what we have mentioned here. The name of the pathogens are mostly the Candida albicans, otherwise Candida glabrata, cruciae, tropicalis, parapsilosis, various species, but the most important one is first one. Here, one additional point we have mentioned, the perfect stage, it is known as Monilia albicans. So what is the meaning of the perfect stage? During the last classes, when we talked about the classification of the fungi, all of you should remember back that we mentioned that one of the subdivision that is known as fungi imperfecti or Deuteromycotina. During that time, we said that most of the pathogenic fungi are placed in the subdivision Deuteromycotina or fungi imperfecti. Imperfecti means those fungi for which the sexual mode of reproduction is not well described or not well known. So those are imperfecti. But during the time gap, suppose the classification, that classification made 10 years back, in between some of the development happened, means we could understand the perfect or the sexual life cycle of the few fungi. One of them is Candida albicans. So Candida albicans, actually the name, it is written under subdivision fungi imperfecti, but after that we could able to understand their sexual method of reproduction. So they are being renamed. They are being renamed as Monilia albicans. So when Candida albicans we say, that means it is the imperfect stage. If we say Monilia albicans, is a perfect stage. Perfect stage and imperfect, the division between the actual line is whether we understand their sexual life cycle or not. If we understand that, then they are perfect. If we don't understand or we do not know, they are imperfect. That is the important part. You should remember that. Okay, now next, what happened? The clinical diseases caused by Candida albicans. Mostly the Candida that forms three different type of disease conditions. One is the mucocutaneous, one is the cutaneous, and another is the systemic infection. Mucocutaneous means you can understand the mucus layer or the cutaneous layer. This is particularly, it happened in the form of a oral thrush. Oral thrush means the buccal cavity, particularly young babies, young kids, when they used to milk fed continuously, due to that, there is enough chance of the growth of Candida albicans inside the buccal cavity. Many young kids, they do suffer of the disease. What happens? It forms a whitish creamy plaque on the tongue, gum, buccal mucosa. So this is thrush. It commonly develops in the infants within a few weeks after birth. Other than that, vaginal candidiasis is also very, very frequent in case of the woman when they used to be in the pregnancy. During pregnancy, what happens, the normal pH of the vaginal area that remains changed and it lowered down. And due to the lowering pH, that situation helps for the development or the multiplication of the Candida albicans. I told that Candida albicans is one of the natural flora of the natural orifices of the human and animals. So Candida is already there, but it's sustained because of the maintenance of the body's physiological condition. But when pH level goes down due to the pregnancy, it is a stress condition. During that stress condition, Candida may multiply rapidly. Even the diabetic patient, whenever we take any antibiotic particularly, there is chance of development of the candidiasis. So this is the muco and cutaneous, mucus layer. Second thing is the only cutaneous candidiasis. This cutaneous candidiasis, it appears on the skin surface. Skin surface, cutaneous means, mostly in case of children, that happens like a pruritus. And pruritus means you can find the itching sensation. The skin become inflamed and sometimes the skin lesion, you can see the young kids, their skin lesions are visible. So this is the cutaneous. Even the housewives, even the cannery workers, they do also suffer from such kind of cutaneous candidiasis. So that is called question of the cutaneous candidiasis means this is the surface skin infection. Now, next is the systemic disease, means when it invades inside the body. That is the one of the most common example we have given. That is the avian candidiasis or moniliasis, or this is also known as thrush. Because Candida infection in particularly the avian species, mostly in poultry industry, you will find it's very, very common. What happens? It occurs in fowl, geese, and turkeys. Positive agent is simply the Candida albicans. So what kind of lesion they do develop? They develop the lesion on the upper alimentary tract, mostly in the inner lining of the crop. The inner lining of the crop, look at this picture. The inner lining of the crop, what happens? In case of the acute infection, there is a very tiny, discrete, yellow, such kind of lesions develop in case of the acute infection. But when it is a chronic infection, this kind of lesion develops, means the crop wall, it becomes highly thick, covered with a false membrane-like material. It is so thick, if you feel it or touch it, you will be feeling like a towel, quite thick towel. That's why it resembles Turkish toweling. Turkish toweling means it's quite make a quite thick layer and very soft layer. Means the entire mucous layer, if it gets covered, so whatever the feed they do consume, it cannot be absorbed. So that is the situation. It happens. The birds may be emaciated and gradually it will die. So that means otherwise there is necrotic exudates which may be occurred in the gizzard. If you look at the gizzard, there will be highly necrotic exudate, and also intestine, and as well as abscess or miliary, it is not military, sorry, it is miliary nodules may be present in the lung as well as liver. This is the extensive lesion in the entire alimentary tract of the bird. You can see what kind of lesion they have developed even in the muscle. This is the crop. So the candidiasis, it develops a systemic infection, means it is a very tough infection to cure. And it happens mostly into the birds, particularly the domestic poultry like fowl, geese, turkeys. So how to diagnose the disease? Diagnosis of the disease, first of all, you should look at the clinical symptoms. What kind of symptoms you can find? Then try for the direct microscopy. Very simple job. Microscopy means if you could found, suppose one bird is already under post-mortem, and if you could see such kind of lesions are there, and those lesions from there you can get some scrapping and then mix into the 10% potassium hydroxide solution and spread over the microscopic glass slide and stain with the either gram staining or lactophenol cotton blue. You will be finding very clear cut yeast-like cells under the microscope. So the determination or the just observation of the candida is very simple job. If you have a microscope, if you have even gram staining kit, you can do the job. Otherwise, if you want to go for further confirmation, let's do the cultural examination. Means we can grow them in the laboratory. Candida albicans, they do grow on normal bacteriological media. You can grow them on blood agar. Otherwise, the preferable media will be malt agar, where you can add antibiotic or without antibiotic also. Otherwise, one more medium I have mentioned is the Rawlins medium. These are quite good medium for Candida albicans. So when they grow, even we can see the development of chlamydospore on cornmeal agar. One medium, it is known as cornmeal agar. When you grow them on cornmeal agar, Candida albicans form chlamydospore. It is very specific for detection or diagnosis. Means it is one kind of confirmation. If you can grow Candida albicans on cornmeal agar, then they will develop chlamydospore. So the growth condition is very simple. If you don't have a cornmeal agar, if you don't have Rawlins medium, if you don't have malt agar, you can simply inoculate on the normal nutrient agar media. Candida won't mind to grow there, and you will find a quite big size creamy color colony. If you stain them under, and then by Gram's method of staining, you can determine the Candida under microscope. How to differentiate the Candida and the bacterial like the cocci? You will be finding them simply the size. Number one, size will be at least 4 to 5 times larger than the coccus of the bacteria. Second thing, you can find a nucleus. That will be the most important difference because Candida is an yeast, it's a fungi, it is an eukaryote, and you will be finding the nucleus inside. That should not be there in case of the bacteria. Okay, other next technique, it is known as germ tube test. What is this test? Suppose you want to confirm if it is a Candida albicans or not. The culture of the Candida albicans, we mix with rabbit plasma. Here, remember, we mix in rabbit plasma, and then that mixture, it should be incubated for 1 to 2 hours at 37 degrees centigrade. Okay, just mix the Candida albicans culture in rabbit plasma, incubate them for 1 to 2 hours at 37 degrees centigrade. Then you try to observe them under microscope. In that case, we can see such a typical kind of growth. This is the original Candida yeast, and there is formation of the pseudo hypha-like structure. This is known as germ tube. It is known as germ tube. It is very peculiar for the Candida albicans. You will not find with the others. So this is one of the confirmation. Other than that, we can go for the pathogenicity test in rabbit and mice, means inoculation in rabbit or mice, and look at the disease development, and some of the sugar fermentation or sugar assimilation test, although this is not very common, but academically we sometimes perform to differentiate between the species, like it is Candida albicans, Candida parapsilosis, Candida glabrata, like that. If you want to differentiate, then we can perform this technique. Okay, so just we have given a very brief concept of the Candida. I believe all of you have already downloaded the class note for mycology. All information is already there. So just for a revision. Next, we are moving to the aspergillosis. For candidiosis, we have already completed the content. Now I am moving to the next disease. It is the aspergillosis. Why I am taking the way? Because it is another important disease for the mostly the poultry. you will be facing this situation in future whenever you will be looking after the poultry. I mean the poultry, either layer farm, broiler farm, whatever it may be. Aspergillosis is a very, very common and very big problem. What happened? It is the disease of the upper respiratory tract, mostly the lung and the lower and the middle as well as the lower respiratory tract. What happened? It causes what kind of disease appearance you will find, the manifestation, it depends upon which organs are involved. Generally, it confined to the lower pulmonary system with florid lesion in the air sac and lung. So this is a common infection. In young poultry, this disease is known as brooder pneumonia. Brooder pneumonia because it happens during the brooding time. So it is a brooder pneumonia. What is the causative agent? Aspergillosis, obviously it is caused by the genus Aspergillus. Two species are important. One is Aspergillus fumigatus, another is Aspergillus flavus. Two species. This is the colony of the Aspergillus fumigatus. This is the colony of Aspergillus flavus. You can identify them by looking at the color. Fumigatus is peculiarly deep greenish in color, and whereas the flavus, it is olive green color, right? So there is big difference between these two species when you grow them on the artificial medium. Otherwise, few other species like Aspergillus terreus, Aspergillus glaucus, Aspergillus niger. Aspergillus niger is also known as black fungi because it forms a black color colony, Aspergillus niger. But these two are important, one is fumigatus and the flavus. So these are the organisms, they are generally available in the soil everywhere. The soil spores are available everywhere. So they do grow on the, so whenever we offer the feed to the bird, sometimes it is available. When they do grow on the deep litter system, the litter is the most common source of the infection. So remember it, if the litter of the poultry, means the deep litter system, the litter of the poultry is not properly prepared, there is every chance of development of aspergillosis. So remember this fact that deep litter is very, very common source of infection in case of the poultry for the aspergillosis infection. What happens? How do the disease transmit? Means what happens? How the birds gets transmission? So when the fowl they grow in wet litter, means the deep litter it is a little bit moist, wet. Then there is production of huge quantity of spore. Then after drying up the litter, what happens? Those spores they are aerosolized. They remain in the air. So that inhaled by the birds, then it propagate or just multiply and develop the new diseases. Sometimes it happens inside the egg also. The eggs are also very common source of infection. Either there may be accidental breakage of the egg or there are direct penetration through the egg. So there may be accidental breakage, the egg gets infected, it incubates, then during the incubation and hatching, so there is release of large number of spores, and through those spores, the new hatch, they gets infection. But in the natural condition also, the spores are so teeny and tiny that they may penetrate the cell during incubation. So the embryos, they get susceptible, they get infection. So there is the hatch of the infected chick. So by that way, there is every chance of getting the infection. So they acquired from environment, as I told, either inhalation of the spores that usually originate, otherwise contamination of the equipments or the egg, that is hatchery infection. What are the clinical signs you can expect? It is a respiratory distress. The disease is basically respiratory distress. So due to the hatchery infection, it happens within 3 to 5 days of infection. There is dyspnea, polypnea, as well as gasping, all right? So the open mouth breathing, such kind of open mouth breathing, this is typical lesion of the brooder pneumonia. When that same disease is happened in concurrence with other viral disease like infectious bronchitis, infectious laryngotracheitis, then situation complicates further. At that time, you can find there is gargling as well as rattling noises. But those type of noise never happens due to Buddha's pneumonia only. Whenever there is infection along with infectious bronchitis, infectious laryngotracheitis, then such kind of noise you can hear from the chest area of the cheeks. If some birds they survive of the disease, it becomes lethargic and stunted. Means the growth is so poor. They develop conjunctival swelling, blindness, and also as exhibit the torticollis and other central nervous system abnormalities. Look at this posture. Look at this posture. So when they cannot move, it is showing the torticollis type of movement. So it is a completely lethargic. Infected poultry flock, it shows biphagic mortality pattern. Means biphagic mortality means you can find a lot of mortality in suppose a week, then after 2-3 weeks there may not be anything, then once again there is mortality. So the biphagic mortality happens in case of the Brooder's pneumonia. There is acute respiratory distress which causes 5 to 50% mortality in first to 3 weeks of age. Survivors generally develop chronic disease where 5% mortality, it happens due to chronic pulmonary insufficiency. Sometimes it develops ascites, blindness, or neurological diseases. So it is a very typical kind of infection, very difficult to remove. Look at the certain signs, symptoms in case of the aspergillosis in the layer cheeks here. The wings are flaccid, huddling together. It's the gasping, the open mouth breathing. Look at this open mouth breathing. So such kind of lesions you should take care, and that is giving the idea of the aspergillosis in case of the young birds. Postmortem, I believe in pathology class they will give you far better description. If you go for the postmortem for the aspergillosis or Buddha pneumonia, the lung and the air sac that gets infected seriously. There are multiple white kind of nodules, extensive caseous nodule formation in the lungs, hugely nodule formation. Air sac also, it forms the caseous nodules in the air sac. It is also a signs of aspergillosis. Otherwise, the liver, it shows the multiple foci in the liver, multiple nodular structure in the liver. And this is the aspergillus under microscope. When we see under the ultraviolet light, there are lots of filamentous fungi. It is under microscope. So how can we diagnose the disease? Diagnosis of aspergillosis is not very difficult because the postmortem lesion will speak a lot. If the birds are suffering from aspergillosis, you will be looking at the nodules in the lung, air sac, exudates in the plugs in the trachea as well as the bronchial lumen. In the entire respiratory tract, it gets damaged. There is a demonstration of branched septate aspergillus hyphae in the lesion. You can demonstrate the presence of the hyphae. Under microscope, you can find the presence of the hyphae. Confirmation should be made by cultural isolation and identification. We can grow them in the laboratory and then we can confirm the disease. Anyone wants to ask anything up to this? We have covered suppose 2 diseases. One is candidiasis, another is the aspergillosis. All are online. Anyone is sleeping? Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
All right. I hope no one is sleeping because taking one mobile phone, sitting on the bed after lunch, it's a big temptation. Anyone wants to ask anything up to this? About 2 diseases, mostly both the diseases, whatever we talked about, diseases of poultry. Although candidiasis, it's a common infection in human animal. Other animals do not suffer a lot, but poultry birds, they do suffer. Just like the Brooder's pneumonia, just like the aspergillosis means the adult birds, and even the poultry birds for the moniliasis or candidiasis. So thus, no one wants to ask anything, questions so far. I want to proceed. For the last one for the day, I want to talk about the mycotoxins. That is the toxins developed by or produced by the fungi. Fungal toxin. The fungal toxins, this is known as mycotoxin. Myco come from mycology, mycosis. So mycelium, those words. So the toxins produced by the fungi, they are known as mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are basically a secondary metabolites. Okay. Now look at the terminology, the secondary metabolites. Metabolites developed by any kind of living cells, there may be of two types. One is the primary metabolites and the secondary metabolites. Primary metabolites, they are sometimes useful for their survival. Secondary metabolites, they are not. Means if they do produce, doesn't matter. Even if they don't produce, not at all an issue. So toxin, fungal toxin, it is secondary metabolite, and they are mostly produced by the fungi. Now, their action, the toxic activity of the mycotoxin, generally it is carcinogenic or it may be allergic, it may be teratogenic. I'll discuss it about that, what kind of action it may form. Yet they are non-volatile and with very low molecular weight, very light. Molecular weight is very, very less. It is 250 to 350 like that, Dalton. Some of the toxins are very, very lethal. It may cause identifiable disease condition. Generally, they are immunosuppressive. Immunosuppressive means it reduces or weakens the immune system. Now, what are the conditions which promotes the mycotoxin formation? One is the temperature. When the temperature is little bit high, more than 5, sometimes in most of the tropical countries where the temperature is high, moisture content is more in the grains, aeration is low, only 1 to 2% of oxygen, relative humidity is high, then there is enough substrate on which it can grow. If this and conditions favors, then fungus produces the toxin. The toxicity by the mycotoxin, it appears in 4 different types. One is acute toxicity, chronic toxicity, mutagenic toxicity, teratogenic toxicity. Acute, you understand, when there is rapid onset of any infection with a single exposure of the toxin. Chronic means when the repeated exposure of the toxins, then they develop delayed kind of symptoms. Mutagenic, it causes damage to the nucleic acid, the DNA. Teratogenic means it causes defects in birth. So the fungal toxin or mycotoxin, this can develop different kind of symptoms like acute toxicity, chronic toxicity. They are mutagenic, they are teratogenic, they are carcinogenic also, that we will talk about. They also develop cancers. What they can do, mycotoxins, generally they can develop respiratory distress, reproductive problem, damage to the kidney, liver, and other organs. It can develop cancer. Ultimately, it may lead to death. So mycotoxins are versatile. They can cause different kind of distress or problem or the infections in the body. Where mycotoxins do grow or they do like to grow. Mycotoxin, wherever they grow, the fungus grow, that is known as substrate. Where fungus grow, that is known as substrate. You know, like corn, wheat, oat, barley, sorghum, cottonseed, then the peanut, then the rye, bread. It is a long list, definitely. Few of them mentioned. These are the place where fungus used to grow. Mycotoxin, it is a preformed toxin. What is the meaning of preformed? Means toxin develops outside the body. Suppose if I take spore of the Aspergillus flavus, if it goes inside my body, even if it forms the hypha, mycotoxin will not be produced inside the body. Mycotoxin forms outside the body and we consume them directly. So when the fungus grow outside in such kind of substrate like the grains, like the bread, like the suppose the maize, wherever it may be. And if the fungi grow and toxin develops, those toxin deposited on the substrate. If we consume it, then we will get the infection. Let's see what are the important fungi that produces mycotoxin. Three important genera like Aspergillus, Fusarium, and Penicillium. These are the three important genera which produces mycotoxin. It is not the end. The list is not exclusive. These are the major genera. There are many fungi which can produce mycotoxin, but these three are major: Aspergillus, Fusarium, Penicillium. Let's look at the different name of the toxins, important toxins developed by this kind of fungi. One of the most important toxin is known as aflatoxins. Then fumonisin, trichothecans, ochratoxins, cyclopiazonic acid, zearalenone, patulin. Actually, there are more than 200 mycotoxins available. More than 200 mycotoxins are available. Only few important, medically important toxins are mentioned here. That causes the different kind of infection in animals and human beings. The foremost important toxin is the aflatoxin. Other than that, fumonisin, trichothecans, ochratoxin, cyclopiazonic acid, zearalenone, patulin. These are the other toxins. Out of this, look at that aflatoxin, ochratoxin, and cyclopiazonic acid. Let me repeat: aflatoxin, ochratoxin, cyclopiazonic acid. It is produced by Aspergillus, different species of Aspergillus. Then fumonisin, trichothecen, zearalenone. Fumonisin, trichothecen, zearalenone. It is produced by Fusarium species. And then patulin, it is produced by Penicillium species. We had a small list of the toxins like aflatoxin produced by Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus parasiticus. Fumonisin by Fusarium moniliform, trichothecans, Fusarium gramineurium, ochratoxin, Aspergillus ocraceus, cyclopiazonic acid, Aspergillus flavus, zearalenone, Fusarium gramineurium, patulin by Penicillium patulum. So this is the sources in your class. I mean the notes, handouts, it is already given the list of the toxin as well as the name of the fungi or the origin. Aflatoxin, as I told, is the most important naturally occurring toxin. This is also known as most potent naturally occurring carcinogen. Let me repeat: most potent naturally occurring carcinogen means there are lots of carcinogen. Carcinogen means what? Those which can cause cancer. That is known as a carcinogen. There are lots of carcinogens we know, but the naturally developed carcinogens are few. One of the most important one is the aflatoxin. Aflatoxin, they can cause cancer in both human and animals. So how do we know this toxin? Aflatoxin was first discovered in 1960 when in England there was an unknown disease of poultry. In 1960s, there was an unknown disease of poultry. More than 1 lakh birds died. And when scientists tried to find out the causative agent, why the birds are dying, then they could not find any bacteria, viruses, any parasite. So that's why they told it is a X disease, means unknown. We always say something unknown like X. So that disease was for the turkey. So that's why they termed as the turkey X disease. X indicates I do not know what is the actual agent. After so many years, when the people tried to grow them, they found there are some fungal growth on the medium. Then they could correlate that this is actually because of the fungus. And then that fungus actually develop in certain toxin. Those are the aflatoxins. Aflatoxins are mostly produced by two species. One is Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus parasiticus. Four toxins are important. This is known as aflatoxin B1, aflatoxin B2, aflatoxin G1, aflatoxin G2. So these are the four different type of aflatoxins they used to produce. It is aflatoxin B1, aflatoxin B2, aflatoxin G1, aflatoxin G2. Now this B and G, this abbreviation, it is due to the name of the color. B stands for blue and G stands for green. What is the meaning? When these toxins are visible under ultraviolet light, then the toxin B, it gives blue fluorescence. Toxin G, they give green fluorescence, all right? So the blue fluorescence and green fluorescence, because of that, the name is given B1, B2. Now B1 and B2 means these are the two subsets. B1 with the the lower molecular weight, then B2 is the higher molecular weight. By that way, if you see, this is the picture, this is a chromatography picture. Here the toxins are arranged like B1, B2, G1, G2. Okay, their fluorescence capacity is different. B is blue fluorescence, G for the light green fluorescence. Aflatoxin B, B1, B2, generally they synthesize by Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus parasiticus, and Aspergillus nomeus. Whereas aflatoxin G, G1, G2, it produced by Aspergillus parasiticus. Look at the Aspergillus flavus. Flavus produces only B, but parasiticus produce both B and G. Other two aflatoxins are there. This is known as aflatoxin M1 and aflatoxin M2. Now, this M1 and M2, these two toxins are not naturally available. What happens, suppose one cattle, a cow, it consumed aflatoxin B1. Then the toxin goes inside the body, it gets metabolized in the liver, and the metabolic byproduct can come out of the milk. Let me repeat, aflatoxin B1, that is being consumed by a cow, and the cow is a milching cow. When the toxin gets inside the body, then the cow metabolites it mostly in the liver. Then from there, a metabolites of the B1 toxin comes out through milk. And that toxin is known as aflatoxin M1. This M stands for metabolites as well as milk also. And with the human, we may get infection of that toxin. If our cow is getting highly contaminated feed, that feed is fungus infested, and that feed is carrying mycotoxin, don't think that we are actually treating the cow, but actually we are getting the toxin from cow to human also, because the metabolites will be released by the milk. And another important point I want to mention here, that mycotoxins are heat tolerant. It does not destroy even in boiling. Mycotoxins are highly heat tolerant. Even if you boil them, toxins will not be destroyed. Means if it is there in the milk, even after boiling, you are getting it. So altogether, the important toxins, as I told, these are the aflatoxins. Of the aflatoxin, most potent one is the aflatoxin B1, then G1, then B2, then G2. It is the toxicity level. Aflatoxin B1 is most toxic, then G1, then B2, then G2. What happens in the pathogenesis of aflatoxicosis? Generally, there are three different mechanisms by which aflatoxin causes a disease. It is a mutagenic, it is a teratogenic, or it is a carcinogenic. Mutagenic means what? It causes mutation. Means it adheres to the DNA, mitochondrial DNA, that develops certain mutations. either the point mutation or maybe substitution or maybe frame shift mutation. So that is, it causes damage to the liver. So that's why it is a hepatotoxic. Mycotoxin is a potent hepatotoxin, means it causes damage to the liver. It causes jaundice, it causes liver cirrhosis, fatty liver syndrome, variety of liver related diseases caused by the mycotoxins. It is a mutagenic effect. Then the teratogenic means it leads to the defect in the birth. There may be abortion, or there may be deformed fetus, or the mummified fetus that develops because of the aflatoxin. Another one is the carcinogenic. It causes the irreversible defect in the cell physiology, resulting in abnormal cell growth and metastasis. So it is a very, very potent carcinogen. It causes mostly the cancer in the liver. What are the different signs and symptoms of mycotoxicosis? Mostly it develops the edema of the legs and feet, abdominal pain, vomition, acute hepatitis, convulsion, liver cirrhosis, carcinoma of the liver, then fever, jaundice, necrosis. This is a quite common one, but mostly it happens, the situation is here: cirrhosis, carcinoma of the liver, jaundice. So this component, it is due to the mutagenic effect of the mycotoxins. How can we detect mycotoxin? Being a vet, we need to understand. So most important thing is that we need to detect how much toxin is available, whether that feed is really fit to provide to the animals or human. We can detect the mycotoxin by various methods. One is the chromatographic technique, like thin layer chromatography, gas chromatography, high performance liquid chromatography. These are all standard techniques by which we can detect and we can measure the amount of the mycotoxin in the feed or fodder or even food or even in anything. Otherwise, we can do the physicochemical technique like capillary electrophoresis. We can do the biological method like biosensors. We can apply the immunological method like enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, immunoaffinity column-based analysis technique. Means altogether, at the end, our objective is to detect the toxin and quantify the toxin, how much toxin is available, whether this food or this feed or this fodder is really in good condition to offer to the animals or not. So we need to detect the amount of the toxin. Then we should understand some preventive measure, what we should do. Always, because aflatoxins or mycotoxins, it is not the direct problem for the infection to the animal. It happens with the offering of molded feed to the animals. Means whatever the feed you are giving to the animal, if those are already infected, then the animal is getting toxin intoxication. So if you want to prevent it, the most important one will be follow the good agricultural practice. Means because aflatoxin infection happens at the field level, during cultivation and post harvesting time. So good manufacturing practice, good hygienic practice, and hazard analysis for critical control points, like when the crop, suppose maize, suppose wheat, suppose peanut, these are the major crop which gets actually mycotoxin infestation. Storage is another very, very important part. When we store our feed or fodder in that very much moist and hot environment, that is the best condition for growth of the fungi. When fungi grow, they develop toxin. And in our Indian condition, you believe that in our rural area, most of the family, when you offer, suppose straw, paddy straw, wheat straw, that used to be stored outside. They do get exposed to the sun, rain, and many of the times I have seen those straws are molded, means there is fungal growth, but we never mind to offer it to our animal, the cattle. But if we offer the molded feed, what is we are offering? We are offering lots of toxins also. So when we are offering the toxin, that does not mean we are offering to the animal only. That toxin will be coming back to us through milk. So on the way, our preventive measure should be we need to stop the growth of the fungi in the feed. Then sometime we can try for detoxification. Suppose there are some toxins already in the feed, we can do or try for certain method where toxin can be removed. There are many methods like chemical method, dietary manipulation, use of certain adsorbents, biocontrol measure, or even putting some regulations we can do. I have given certain detoxification method that is very routinely applied by the farmers, like exposure to sunlight for about 12 to 14 hours that can degrade the aflatoxin up to 70 to 90%. Quite good. If we can expose the straw, which is already fungal infested, and that can degrade
Am I
the
audible?
toxin. If we can dry that 120
Yes,
degrees
sir.
centigrade for 2 to 3 hours, that may reduce the toxin
Slides
by
are
60 to
visible.
90%. If you want to do it in high
Yes, sir.
throughput in the laboratory condition,
Okay.
we can apply
Let us-
autoclaving, then pellet
So today
formation that inhibit the mold growth.
We'll discuss
Then we can
the
do the
topic
proper cleaning and mechanical
on
sorting
the
and separation of the molded feed and good feed.
biochemical basis
And
of
density
fluid therapy,
segregation is also
right?
possible. Certain chemical
So
agents
in the last
which are
classes,
also
I think all
applicable,
of you have
like
got the
we
materials
can
that I
apply
had
certain
sent
alkali
you.
like calcium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, ammonia, certain acid like
Am
benzoic
I
acid,
audible?
copper
To all of
sulfate
you?
at 0.04 to 0.5%. This, if we treat the feed with this agent, toxin content will be reduced.
Am I audible to all of you?
Dietary manipulation is
Yes,
also
sir.
possible,
Yes,
like
sir.
mycotoxins, it
So all
affect the
of you got
nutrient
fed
value
here?
of the feed. So increasing the dietary
Yes,
level
sir.
can minimize this effect. Then
Okay, good.
aflatoxin negative effect is lower in birds
So
consuming higher protein and higher methionine. Means if you offer the
today we'll
bird
discuss this biochemical
high
basis
level of
of fluid
protein,
therapy,
high
right?
methionine, then
So
even if they
coming
are
to
taking
the
the feed, effect will be
topic
less.
proper,
Certain
the different
adsorbent are
types of
available. Adsorbent means which can suck up the toxin like zeolite, bentonites, aluminum silicate, activated charcoal, hydrated sodium calcium as well as the aluminum silicate. These materials, if we mix up with the feed, that can reduce the toxin level at very, very high amount. So they just we have tried to cover up certain, because why I have given this in details, in future, you the vets will be going to the field. These are the common questions you will be facing. That you will find that there are lots of poultry farmers, they are suffering from aspergillosis. The cattle farmer, they will ask you that what should I do with these feeds? I believe this is the topic our nutrition departments also they will cover how to handle the mycotoxicosis and their feed. Okay, with that, the content of the day, I think it is done. And now, if you have a question, please come forward. Come on, any questions from anyone? I believe all are hearing and I am audible. Is there anyone who wants to respond? Yes, someone is trying. Or could you download the class note for mycotoxicosis, mycology?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Although I have mentioned there all the important points, and it's almost same thing I have tried to cover, but here a few more photographs, few more illustrations will be here. Otherwise, you can read those notes also, no issue. So you have no questions, I believe. No one is coming forward.
Sir,
Yes, please, Gargi.
in the notes, this portion is not there. These all signs and symptoms detection of.
Very good, very good. Then if it is not there, just you can complete supplement with these class lectures.
So can
I
we?
know you want the slides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sure, I'll upload it in your group. Those signs, symptoms, all the things. So I'll upload this total presentation in your group. No problem. Any more? No queries? Okay. Then if no more queries, let us conclude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.